Welcome back, fight fans. I'm Ray Garvey Jr. We're about to come at you with episode 2 of the MMA News, everything that happened this past week. UFC Saudi Arabia, winners, losers, what's next? We have Nate Diaz running it back with Jorge Masvidal in boxing. We lost an MMA legend and pioneer, and more right after our intro. All right, fight fans, anybody who tuned in last week knew that we were pulling hard for Robert Whittaker. Unfortunately, he lost his dance partner at the last hour in Khamzat Chimaev. He took on the 2-0 ever-dangerous Aliskerov. Robert Whittaker did not lose motivation, went in there, made short work, and ended the fight in devastating fashion. We saw a dynamic striker. We saw a patient Robert Whittaker, very much a la 2020 when he was on his championship run. And guess what? When most fighters, the week of, are cutting weight, being pampered, and doing media, this savage of a man from New Zealand was having an emergency surgery to have an abscess removed from his mouth. This guy was going to show up no matter what. Robbie, I desperately hope that this puts you in the position to fight for UFC gold in the near future. We here in the boys at MMA News love you. Let's give it up for Bobby Knuckles. Alexander Volkov, for the casual MMA fan, this name might not ring a bell, but I tell you what, very quietly, he has amassed a 4-fight win streak in the UFC heavyweight division, including a win over the likes of Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Tai Tuivasa and Sergey Pavlovich. So right now, it's not uncommon to see 2 wins put you at the top of the heap. Tom Aspinall has a dance partner. That takes place July 27th. I think this puts Alexander Volkov right in position to take on the winner of that fight. Volkan Oezdemir made quick work and made Johnny Walker look pedestrian. I know that Johnny's had mixed results in the last year, but he's an athlete. He has knockout power in both hands and can end it at any minute. Volkan Oezdemir sat in there patiently landing a hook. Pretty much Johnny Walker was on borrowed legs for the better part of 15 seconds. We saw Volkan as poised as a fighter could be. Did not burn out the gas tank, did not take any unnecessary shots, and won in devastating fashion humbly. Look for big things for Volkan Oezdemir at the 205-pound weight class. Magomedov is the scariest looking person in mixed martial arts. He looks like the bad guy in a James Bond movie. Big red lines made, one eye. I tell you what, something about these Eastern European fighters, they are quote unquote built different. This guy stands tall, stands in the pocket. Much like Mike Perry we talked about last week, Magomedov does not seem to comprehend the idea of fear in the octagon. He sat there, picked his shots, was willing to take whatever he was being thrown at, and made light work of his opponent. I know that the UFC is the big sexy promotion, and it's easy for us as fight fans to forget about Legacy Fighting Alliance, Bellator, PFL, even the forgotten Strikeforce and WEC. But this past weekend on the early prelims, a young man by the name of Brahyan Zurcher had a Cody Garbrandt, Jeremy Stevens-esque knockout. At the 155-pound weight class, very seldom do we see guys with devastating one-shot power to put the lights out. You're gonna watch this right here in the video. Both men overcommit with a right, and with a little shovel hook, coffee mug style thumbs up, Zurcher separated this man from his consciousness before he even hit the canvas, and this is a knockout that is absolutely TV worthy. Zurcher, I hope this puts you on the map. I hope that we hear good things for you to come. I know that you're 9-0, you're 28 years of age, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I tell you what, you got a fan in me. If nothing else, that knockout is gonna sit in the Hall of Fame of greatest knockouts in MMA history. And right here, we have video of that devastating knockout by Brahyan Zurcher. We're going to tune into our screen right here. Watch this. He's going to land a lead uppercut. Zurcher on his back foot, not looking like he's very dangerous right now. Overcommits with 2 right, and a devastating shovel hook from underneath separates him from his consciousness in an absolute top 10 knockout of the year, in my opinion, fight fans. At 28 years of age, 9-0, look for big things to come out of Brahyan Zurcher. And keeping in line with Bellator, our very own Conor McGregor made his appearance known. In a move that I'm not sure was the best to be seen by anybody for PR, he actually interviewed before the victor of his fight. Even though 4 of his 5 Irish fighters came out on top on that fight card, Conor was more concerned with promoting his new beer brand and taking the limelight from somehow Dan Hardy looks like he's a lead singer for the cover band of Smash Mouth. I don't know what happened to the fan favorite Dan Hardy. But Conor, you're talking about a toe injury. Every part of me wants to believe you, but if evidence and history says anything, there are reports that you were out there partying that night. You're supposed to have a dance partner in the upcoming months against Michael Chandler. Please get your stuff together. I know the fight fans want to see you in that octagon at least one more time. All right, everybody, I want to do something a little bit different every week. From Ariel Helwani to Jesse on Fire, I know that we cover everything combat related, but on occasion, our decorated athletes do things outside of the octagon that are absolutely incredible. Any MMA original fans will remember the likes of Jeff Monson, over 80 fights across his MMA career. That savage of a 260-pound tattooed bald guy actually has a master's degree in clinical psychology. Go figure, the same guy separating you from your consciousness is going to also help you find closure on your fractured inner child. Also, following him, I'm going to talk about Rozzy Sexton. If anybody doesn't know who she is, I desperately recommend that you go and search her online right now. This young woman is not only beautiful and incredibly talented mixed martial artist, but she has a degree in math theory. I don't know how you find the time to be Goodwill Hunting and at the same time learn how to choke people out from the bottom, but whatever, my hat is off to you, Rozzy Sexton. Another one that I'm going to mention, this is one that you guys are probably familiar with, is Shane Carwin. He was made famous with his double two-fight tenure against the likes of Brock Lesnar. Shane Carwin, who wears a size 5X glove, 265-pound juggernaut of a man, has degrees in both mechanical and environmental engineering. So whoever's going to say that this sport is for big dumb animals, I tell you what, I dare you to say that to Shane Carwin, Jeff Monson, and Rozzy Sexton. And closing out on that, there's going to be someone that real MMA fans remember. This guy has as many submission victories as anybody I can possibly think of. Joe Lauzon, on top of having a brother fought in the UFC, him having over 25 fights in the octagon, somehow managed to find a time to have a degree in computer science. Before he was choking people out with triangles, kimuras, and gogoplatas, he was a network administrator. So go figure, the next time that you're going to talk smack in the office to the guy who's trying to reset your router, remember that guy might in fact be Joe Lauzon. Honorable mention for the Don seat. I'm going to say that right now this is not necessarily somebody that's highly educated, but we all know that Stipe Miocic is a full-time firefighter and paramedic, so we're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Mike Russo, who knocked out the likes of an incredibly athletic young Todd Duffy. This guy was a full-time City of Chicago police officer and still managed to have a pretty impressive career in the UFC heavyweight division. I just want you to take a peek. This looks like something out of a Mel Gibson, Apocalypto, or Guy Ritchie film more than it does an MMA fight. If this was on Netflix at 2 in the morning, you would say that this is beyond what could be considered true. But I already talked about it last week. I do think that Jiri, with his hands-low style, I'm looking for Alex Pereira. Every time somebody doubts him, everyone says that it's a fluke of what he's done. He's done nothing but cement the fact that outside John Jones, I don't think you can really make an argument that anyone is more deserving of the second greatest light heavyweight position on that Mount Rushmore than the likes of Alex Poatan Pereira. So Brian Ortega thankfully was able to get in the win column. I know that what Max Holloway did to him, that is a fight that not only changes a man's career, but changes a man's soul. Max Holloway landed over 400, if memory serves correct, significant strikes against the likes of T-City. As a matter of fact, he was trying to teach him boxing defense in the middle of that fight. Brian, an ever-decorated grappler, I tell you what, this is probably the make or break fight for Brian T-City Ortega. He was a name, he was a big name in the UFC. He had sponsorships with beer companies. And I tell you what, for the casual MMA fan, his name is probably fallen to the bottom of that heap. If he's not able to get past his opponent in this coming fight, I don't really see any path for Brian Ortega to be anything other than a gatekeeper or perhaps maybe find himself in another promotion. Best of luck to you, Brian Ortega. So I tell you what, I love what the UFC is doing right here. Michael Venom Page, a little bit long in the tooth, he's a striker. Instead of throwing him in there against a wrestler and a grappler, someone that's going to neutralize the very thing that Michael Venom Page is amazing at, they're putting him in there with Ian Machado Gary, a decorated striker, a little bit younger. I tell you what though, Michael Venom Page, with his experience, look for him to exploit any missteps or mishaps that Iangarry finds himself. This is the first true test that Gary's going to have to overcome, other than the fact that he married a gold-digging succubus. I tell you what, fight fans, this one's probably not going to be covered by any other MMA outlets, but me, as a middle-aged guy, I remember these. Cub Swanson has been in the UFC for over 13 years. Andre Touchy-Feely, same thing. Cubby, I think, is 41 years old. Cubby's 41. Andre is 34 years old. I'm thinking this is going to be the fight. They're both 1-1, 1-1, 1-1 in their last 6 fights each. This is going to be the fight that we see Cub Swanson leave the gloves in the octagon. And I tell you what, Cubby, you've left an amazing legacy. You got close to sniffing out UFC gold. You never quite got there. But at the 145-pound weight division, outside of Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor, and Max Holloway, I tell you what, you're right up there in the top 10 over the last 10 years. Cubby, congrats on an amazing career. Thank you for all you've given to the sport, and I do look forward for your contributions to the world of MMA to come. There's obvious times where people are banking on a name and nothing else. And right now, both Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal have given everything they have to combat sports. All they have left is the name. Their best years are undoubtedly behind them, but guess what? I'm still going to happily pay that $24.99 to catch this pay-per-view. You have the East Coast Gangster versus the West Coast Gangster. They already competed in the octagon. Jorge was able to come out on top, but now they're going to run it back, this time in the squared circle in boxing. I tell you what, I still think that Jorge Masvidal is a little bit of a sturdier athlete. I know that Nate's going to stand tall. He's going to land a lot of 1-2s down Main Street, but I think that Jorge, with a sturdier build and a little bit more power in both hands, I'm looking for him to make relatively light work of Nate Diaz and once again bring it home for the 305. Nate, thank you for everything you've given to the world of MMA. You and your brother both. Good luck, Nick Diaz, on your fight upcoming pretty soon. And Jorge, I tell you what, you were fighting in the backyards of Miami under the likes of Kimbo Slice when people were still using dial-up internet. I'm super happy that against the likes of Ben Askren, you were able to finally cash in on an amazing career. Guys, I'm going to watch you both. I wish you both the best of luck. And let's go. MMA news right now. We're Team Jorge. Because we about that East Coast gangster. I tell you what, everybody, sometimes fights have implications, sometimes they don't. This has nothing to do with the world of boxing and absolutely nothing to do with the world of mixed martial arts. But with Mike Perry getting ready to square off against Jake Paul, I tell you what, is it too crazy to think that the winner of Jorge and Nate, if one of them happens to look decent, that's going to be a quote-unquote money fight. So I'm not looking for Mike Perry to go back to BKFC anytime soon. I do think that Mike Perry's going to get past Jake Paul, and I tell you what, Mike Perry versus Jorge Masvidal in boxing, whether it be in game-bred bare knuckle or in the squared circle, traditional boxing, the way that we're used to viewing it, that is something I'm going to be interested in. That's going to be something that captures the hearts, the minds, and the attentions of true combat sports fans everywhere. So Zurcher, and I'm desperately hoping that I pronounce that correctly with all this Eastern European invasion. If I have a little faux pas once in a while, please forgive me. I tell you what, the only people that are cheering him on for what he did are going to be the scrap pack. That's Gil Melendez, Nick and Nate Diaz, and Jake Shields. It is never okay to put your hands on a fan. This guy, after walking down Charles Oliveira, decided that it would be a good idea to put hands and throw a strike at a fan who just paid upwards of $500 to watch him compete. The 9-month suspension, they're trying to put it down to 6. That's not going to affect his opportunity for a title defense. But I tell you what, Zurcher, over here on the red, white, and blue, we don't do things like that. The fans deserve better. The promotion deserves better. And if you want to hold UFC gold above your head, I certainly hope that you show better to the kids that are watching. Before anybody says anything, this is not the guy who sang Over the Rainbow. This is Willie Taylor. He was a sumo wrestler in UFC 1. He got knocked out relatively quickly against Gerard Gardeau. He's the one whose tooth went flying into the stands. Jim Brown, who was a judge, God knows why, watched his tooth in slow motion fly over the octagon. But he made himself famous in movies like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and on Hawaii Five-0. If it wasn't for him, we would have never had UFC 1, which means we might never have Conor McGregor, Brock Lesnar, Shane Carwin, and Rozzy Sexton with the Crazy Degrees. So Willie Taylor, everyone that talks about you spoke highly of you. You were 56. You're gone way too soon. Thank you for the contributions you made to the sport. We're lucky to have you there. And if your family's watching, if anybody that knows him personally, let's keep him in our hearts and let's remember him fondly for what he did back before this was an actual sport. This is a new segment that we're doing called The Good Lord's Work. And guess what? You don't have to go to church on a Sunday, and you don't even need to believe. If you take care of people that can't take care of themselves, you are in fact doing the Lord's work. And this week we're going to put the shine and the spotlight on a fan favorite that we covered last week, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Right now with the Good Fight Foundation, right in his own backyard in the ever-forgotten Louisiana, post-Hurricane Katrina, this guy has been able to put together meals for more than 30,000 impoverished residents of the greater New Orleans area. Dustin, you've auctioned off every single piece of fight gear when all these athletes have a museum and a monument to themselves. You took every fight trunk, every glove, every mouth guard, and decided to auction those things off so that you could give to people who could not fight for themselves. Even Khabib Nurmagomedov, in one of my favorite moments in MMA, when Khabib choked out Dustin the Diamond Poirier, he literally pulled off his shirt, signed it, gave it to him because Khabib is a man of Allah, Dustin's a man of God. Either way, they are fighting for the forgotten. So Dustin, give it up for you. Thank you for everything you do. Everybody, that was episode 2 of the MMA News. I'm Ray Garvey Jr. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to earn your 20 minutes. Please, please, please hit that like button, smash the subscribe, help my channel grow so I can continue to give you the MMA news that you want and I get to share the sport that I love. Until next time, we'll see you later.